Good morning, everybody. How we doing? We're hanging in there? Great. Let's give another hand to Mohammed and the city. This is to have the 6 agencies, to have MTA, to have DPW, to have the port, to have Park and Rec, to have the PUC, to have the airport, playing the same sheet of music when it comes to partnering. This is an incredible innovation. This is a wonderful day. It's really exciting. So thank you all for the opportunity, and thank you for the opportunity to talk to you a little bit about collaborative partnering, this structured process that we're sharing with you. So I know there have been some examples of what the contractor and owner relationship has historically looked like. I have another one for you, and this is kind of the old paradigm, the adversarial paradigm that we've all been born in our industry. On here, what's unique about construction is our relationship. It's so much more like a marriage than anything else because we all have risk and reputation on the line. And when we build a public structure, at the end of the day, people have to drive on it or visit it. So we have a shared risk, and it's an enduring one that we can show to our kids. And yet we're on this island, and we're stuck in this tug of war. And on one side, we got the owner and perhaps designer or a construction management firm, everybody representing. And then on the other side, we have our contractors with their material suppliers and the supply chain and specialty consultants. And they're in this tug of war, but we're trapped on this small island. And if everybody tugs too hard, the rope breaks, and everybody ends up in the drink. We all know that we've got our little lawyer sharks and alligators to help clean us up if we do fall in. But there's a better way. So we're going to outline that for you. So what is collaborative partnering? When IPI talks about collaborative partnering, we're talking about a structured process that works to develop a culture of partnership between the organizations and teams that must work together to achieve the successful delivery of construction projects. You just heard about this from Jeff, delivering EPO. In terms of the objective, partnering is where members of the project team are meant to interact, solve problems, and establish a collaborative culture. This is the forum to resolve issues. Partnering meetings should be valuable. It should be better than going to a movie because we come together to solve problems. And really, we get into the construction business because we want to solve problems. We want to build things, not because we want to show up to a dogfight every day. That's what the forum of collaborative partnering provides. The whole idea is that every project has issues. And the other thing that Jeff touched on that's great is scorecards and measurement. Analysis of the partnering process is the fastest way to unearth issues. On large projects, the death of large projects is never about what's going on at the top. It's what's going on at the field level. And guess what? Your carpenters, your masons, they know when a project's failing long before the executive team does. You just need a way to tap into them, and partnering is a way to do that. So why do we need it so much? Well, frankly, our business has some productivity problems. This is a study done by Paul Teicholz at Stanford, and what he did was he took a look at the Bureau of Labor Statistics and analyzed how construction was doing versus all the other non-farm industries in the United States. And guess what? Construction's the only one that's lost productivity since the 1960s. We've since leveled off. It's getting better, but it's still not great. We're still not back to where we were in the early 60s. Why do you all suppose that is? Well, our favorite scapegoat. One, litigation, right? Yeah, that's certainly an issue. The other part, fragmentation. How many entities are on a project today? Thousands, right? We have subs, we have specialty subs. Think about a bathroom. This one blew my mind. Think about a bathroom. How many subs are involved in a bathroom? Right? You've got the mirror guy, you got the sink guy, you got the boundary person, you have the urinal person. There's water, there's lighting, there's HVAC. It's incredibly complex, and it's a small footprint. And that's just a little piece, an important piece, but a little piece of each building. We have more and more people on a project each day. And that means more cultures to align. Partnering is a forum where you can bring those stakeholders together to help deal with that fragmentation. The other reason that partnering is necessary, it's because conflict is expensive. And I've always kind of intuitively known this. I've worked as a mediator before I got into the construction industry, so I've known that it doesn't help. There's lots of studies on how productivity goes down when people are in conflict or when they are stressed out. But there was a study that just came out this last year from Michigan State, and they actually analyzed construction project conflicts. And they found that by interviewing about 81 people, there were 86 conflicts that happened on a job site. They analyzed 41 of them. And what they did was they took a look at how much time they spent. And they just calculated the hourly wages. So like your superintendent's hourly wages and your field guy's hourly wages, if there's an argument over pipe fitting, that takes hours and hours, not just to have the argument, but also to mediate it once it's going. And this happens all the time in the field. They analyzed 41 for time and cost. The average cost of those 41 disputes was almost $11,000 of time lost, because it takes about 160 hours to mediate an issue when it comes up. You have to talk to one guy, you've got to talk to the other guy, you have both supervisors come in, then you need your supervisors to sort it out. You need to choose who's got the best work plan. It gets really expensive. The most expensive one they analyzed in the project was a 6,000 hour dispute. It cost about $360,000 of just time loss. That doesn't even involve the claim that probably went along with it. Then think about a litigated claim. How many times you have to pull your staff off of a project they're working on back into a court or to do a deposition. That's all lost time when you could be building the next job. But what is possible with partnering? What's possible? This is highlights from a study that was done in 1996 by the Construction Industry Institute. They did a benchmarking study. They said, partnered projects, what's the best of your best outcomes? In the 90s, they found that partner projects could save about 10% on budget. They could save about 20% on schedule. They're having great schedule outcomes in collaborative projects. The most important thing, perhaps, is the safety culture that arises out of a partnered team. Tenfold improvement in safety. Job satisfaction, a 30% bump. We had Dave Neese talk at the IPI Awards a couple years ago, and he talked about, for him, he likes partner jobs because at the end of the day, he likes to go home and kiss the wife rather than kick the dog. The idea of partnering is we can have more wife kissing and less dog kicking. Because it's fun at the end of the day when you work hard together to resolve issues, when we're doing our job. In fact, Steve Sanders, who is the researcher that did this study, he said that partnering is CII's best of best practices. So we should implement it. And the way we found that leveraging partnering, the way we found that partnering will work best is when we have owners who are driving towards an objective. Jeff talked about excellent project outcomes. Well, to give you an example, Maryland SHA, the State Highway Administration, they had a program objective. They wanted to get rid of their arbitrations. They wanted to lower the number of claims they had. They wanted to be perceived as a more fair owner who can resolve issues. So that was the goal they set. And in the 1990s, you can see how the trend line goes down. It may be a little difficult to see for folks in the back. But basically, the dark blue lines is how many arbitration claims they had against them in dollars. The highest one goes above 20 million in a year. The gray is how much they paid out in arbitration settlements. You can see that the trends are lower. There are trend lines for each. From 1990 to 2000, they averaged about $7.85 million a year in claims against them that went to arbitration. They lost arbitrations and had to pay out, on average, $1.73 million per year. That's just in arbitration payments. That doesn't calculate the lost time. Since they instituted partnering and had a full-time program manager who helped create their partnering program, they've got a steering committee, they've got a lot of the structures that we're talking about today, they've been able to reduce the amount of claims against them that rise to arbitration by half. They now have $3.85 million in arbitrations per year. In settlements, they're paying out about $1 million, and that trend keeps going down. That's $600,000 savings a year just in arbitrations, and that certainly helps pay for a partnering program, wouldn't you say? So how's partnering going now? Well, last year, the IPI Awards, we took some metrics of our project winners. We had 20 projects that totaled about $3 billion of work. And the fact of the matter is that partnering now is more structured and more sophisticated than it was in the 90s. We've gotten better at it. We have more structure, and we know it works. And IPI collects those lessons and best practices so you can get access to them. And what we found was those projects averaged 11.5% savings. We also had 14 with no time loss incidents. 13 of them finished on time or early, and 2 of the projects were able to shave a full year off their schedule. These are incredible outcomes, particularly for mega projects. The most important thing is we interviewed them and said, hey teams, you did partnering. How valuable do you think it was? Estimate how valuable the collaborative relationship was. Maybe it was a value engineering proposal that they were able to get through because the owner would actually look at it. Or perhaps they were able to come up with a way to make a $1 million issue be a $10,000 fix. Whatever it was, they gave us a metric. And they found that partnering is a great investment. $1 spent on partnering leads to $93 in savings. Value engineering, typically you hear $1 spent on value engineering saves you 40 bucks. This is a pretty good return on investment. So how do we do it? Well, Jeff talked a lot about our structured process, so I'm going to introduce to you a few of those tools. The first is our professional neutral facilitators. As the city is learning and implementing partnering, our professional neutral facilitators are a key component of this process. They're a third party. We talked about a scorecard. We need people to tell the truth. It doesn't work if people are afraid, right? So having a neutral third party is a way that you can ensure that people who are asked how the project is going, they will actually share that information. They're also experts on the process. They can walk your team through it, introduce how to set up your dispute resolution ladder, help you navigate your dispute resolution system. They can help you establish the process, particularly with agencies that have only been using it periodically. It means your project managers probably aren't super comfortable with all of the processes yet. So it's important to use these facilitators. We have some tables outside, and there's some great folks who know a lot about partnering. I absolutely encourage you to hit them up. Accountability and measurement. We need a way to track our metrics. Scorecards is one of them. Other ones are program level objectives. If you haven't been looking at how many claims go to arbitration, maybe it's time to start keeping track. That's a great way to figure out whether you're resolving issues or if they're going over the fence into litigation. The next piece is a partnering spec. We have one. The next piece is an integrated dispute resolution process. The whole idea being that partnering is the first layer and way that hopefully you can resolve all your issues. But if you can't, then you have other systems in place. You can use facilitated dispute resolution. Some of the city and county agencies have been using DRAs and DRBs as a way, part of the DRIP system, to make sure that you're catching all the conflicts, to ensure that you don't need to end up in litigation. And the last piece is a scalable approach. I'm going to give you just a 30-second outline on the IPI matrix. What this is a matrix. It's a way to set up your partnering so you know and you can ensure that you've got enough partnering for the amount of risk on your job. In the city and county, they have their own matrix. The fundamental issue is you want to take a look at what some of the risks are on the project before you select your partnering level. And that way you can mutually agree, do we need to have extra partnering on this job or do we need to have less? Okay? So for example, you have a $15 million building. Seems like a pretty straightforward project. And there's a few risk factors that we include both in the IPI matrix and then the city and county matrix. Things like complexity. How complex is this? Is this an ongoing hospital project? Is this an empty building? Is it a rehab where we have to do structural rehabilitation? Or is it something that's pretty straightforward? If it's extra complex, you'll probably need to bring more parties together and meet more frequently. The other piece, political significance. Where is the building? I had a great example of a $1 million job from one of our committees that were talking about it. It was a $1 million repaving job. The only thing was it was at Cal Berkeley Stadium, and they had to complete it in July before the August 16th first kickoff of Berkeley's football season. So did they partner that job? You betcha. They absolutely did, because there was a lot of risk. Then there's also other risk factors like your relationship. Have you worked with this contractor before? If you have and you have great relationships, good. Then you want to maintain them, because we all know every project's a case study. If you don't know them, there is risk there. In terms of value of engagement, level of engagement, you want to meet with a certain frequency. You can determine that and know from the level of complexity, the level of risk, the level of political significance, what type of partnering you should select. And ultimately, it'll allow you to choose your level. What we recommend is that if you have additional complexities that go above your dollar threshold, consider leveling up your partnering. Ramp it up. You can kick up the project. You can meet, if it's quarterly or monthly, do what it takes to make sure that the project's going to be successful. Once it's flying high and the team's doing great, you can ramp it down. But it's a lot harder to save projects with partnering than it is to kick it off and have a successful outcome from the beginning. And that's what we recommend. So, today we're here to celebrate. Today we're going to hear from some outstanding project teams. And what's most exciting to me is that this is an ongoing process. International Partnering Institute is a forum. It's a place where you can come together to network. You can learn some of these great lessons. You can talk to some of the smartest, most innovative collaborators in the country and in the world. And I hope you guys will get involved. It's a great forum to learn some of these lessons, get some of the research, and learn more. We can also help you with selection of professional facilitators. We have a growing list of participating facilitators who we can connect you with. So I hope to be a resource. We've got a table in the back. Thank you so much for the opportunity, and have a wonderful morning. Thanks again.
All right, thank you again, Rob. I also want to thank some of our silver sponsors, Redwood Electric, Parsons Brinkenhoff, T1 Partners, a joint venture, and AECOM. Big thanks for that.